We have new reporting on how big of a financial boom last week's convention was for the Harris campaign. Folks, these numbers are huge.
$540 million. Wow. The campaign says that they've raised since Harris launched her campaign just over a month ago. And of that, 82 million was raised just in the past week during the DNC.
Former First Lady Melania attended that Florida event that in part looked to mark Mr. Trump now winning the support of some major Republican donors who have been reluctant to back him.
Well, we say this every election cycle because every election cycle we hit a new record, but a new record has been hit when it comes to campaign donations being funneled into the campaign coffers of the two presidential candidates and the two political parties, Democrats and Republicans. So as you saw in that video, Kamala Harris has already raised more than $500 million for this race. And Donald Trump ain't doing so poorly himself. So we're gonna get to that in just a moment. But the Harris campaign does brag that about a third of her campaign contributions come from first-time donors. And of those first-time donors, the majority of them, they claim, are teachers and nurses. But remember, that's just 1/3 of the donors. Who are the rest of them? And we're gonna get into that.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just wanna urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
The Washington Post analyzed some Federal Election Commission data, and they found that the 50 largest donors in this cycle have collectively funneled $1.5 billion in political committees and other groups competing in this election. And most of that money went to super PACs, which, well, we all know what that means. Money to super PACs can be unlimited. There are no limits to how much an individual can contribute. And so I wanna get into the top political donors, the big money donors for both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. But before I do, this is Cenk Uygur's wheelhouse. Cenk, take it away.
So this is why I formed Wolfpack, wolf-pack.com, because money in politics is everything. What's frustrating to me is when people go, oh, well, that's an issue and it's an arcane issue. I don't know if the American people are gonna be interested in it. It's a lot of technical, no, that's all ways of avoiding it. It's not complicated at all. It's called corruption. It's the #1 issue in most elections throughout the world. People hate it. It happens all the time because the people at the top want to stay at the top. So they start doing corruption and buying off the government. So the way that they buy off the government in other places and what used to be here is they bring duffel bags full of cash and they buy off. Now in America, you don't have to do that anymore. In fact, you couldn't even fit any of this in a duffel bag or even a truck because they're giving so much money. They'd have to bring in an 18-wheeler full of cash to account for all this money. Because in America, we are unfortunately, and this breaks my heart more than anything there is, became the most corrupt country on earth when we legalized bribery. And that's what the Supreme Court did in 76, 78, then Citizens United, McCutcheon, and so many other cases, okay? So now these guys, as you're gonna see, are just simply buying both the politicians, left and right, literally, right? And the idea that after they give $50 million, they're not gonna want something back, you would have to be a mainstream media reporter to believe that, because that's the most ridiculous, insane thing I have ever heard. No real person on the left or the right believes that. They're paying all this money so they could purchase US policy and have it benefit them and not you guys.
And I mean, it's worked out real well for them so far. And so we're gonna get into the crypto industry in just a minute. Before we do though, let's take a look at the top donors for both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Let's begin with Donald Trump. For this election cycle, his top donor and the top donor to the Republican Party happens to be Timothy Mellon. He's a Wyoming-based businessman, and if you can see, he has already contributed $165 million in this election cycle. That is insane. Of that money, $125 million went to the Make America Great Again PAC. Obviously, that is the PAC supporting Donald Trump. He also donated $25 million for the American Values 2024 PAC and another $10 million for the Congressional Leadership Fund, which of course helps to get Republicans elected into congressional seats. Also donating to Trump and the overall Republican Party is hedge fund manager Ken Griffin, who in this election cycle has already spent $75.7 million. Then you have investment company owners Jeff and Janine Yass. who have spent $73.9 million, and a mainstay in the election cycle for Republicans. You have Richard and Elizabeth Uline, who have spent $70.7 million in campaign contributions in this election cycle alone. Now, if you look at the numbers and you look at the donors and how much they've contributed, it is pretty clear that even now you still have the majority of big money donors like pouring their funds into the Republican Party. But there are definitely big money donors for Democrats as well, and I want to get to that.
Yeah, so the Ken Griffins and all the private equity guys, that's just another word for Wall Street. So Big Pharma used to be the biggest donors. Now they're getting outshined by Wall Street. And because Wall Street's got a lot of interests, right? They run a lot of the pensions for the state governments. They want deregulation. They want to be allowed to do mergers. But mainly they just don't want you checking in on what they're doing at all. And why? So that they could take higher risk with your money. That's what led to the 2008 crash. Because when they take higher risk, they make more money, but the risk is not theirs, it's yours because it's your money. So that they bribing government officials to be allowed to take risk is their go-to move, let alone the fact that they're now also buying up all of our homes and they're gonna make renters out of all of us. It's just the worst case scenario. If the press was doing their job proportionally, like and then by the way, to be fair, that also applies to us. We don't do it proportionally either, okay? Because if we were going to cover politics proportionally, 90% of our coverage would be about money and politics. Actually, over 90%. Because the rest of it is just driven by the money. It's not like they're having a real debate about housing or a real debate about Israel or a real debate about anything. They're just having a competition of who's getting bribed more.
Okay, I totally disagree with you. I feel like you never miss an opportunity to tie every story we do to money and politics.
Because that's what decides it every single time.
So that critique was not fair of us.
Okay, all right.
I just want you to take that critique back.
Okay, and look, my point is, it's an overwhelming issue. Yes, we touch on it often. Let's leave it at that. And of course we touch on it more than every show combined, right? But for mainstream media, they never even talk about it. Like, okay, God bless Washington Post for running this story. I appreciate it, and you should always give credit where credit is due, and that's a print publication. But every time they go to talk about housing now, do they go, hey, who's your private equity donors?
Yeah, for real.
Dana Bash is not gonna ask Kamala Harris that. Nobody's gonna ask Trump. Everybody's gonna take it for granted. Well, of course, Kamala Harris has done a great job of raising all this money. Oh, but here comes Donald Trump. He's also raising a lot of money. They make it sound like it's positive. No, they're having a race over who can get bribed more. That's not a good thing, that's a terrible thing.
That would be such a great question, and I'd be so fascinated to hear how Kamala Harris would respond to that, right? If Dana Bash did her due diligence, I mean, she's got resources, she's got producers, they can do the research. If they find that there's private equity money being donated to her campaign, okay, well then tell me how that money would influence your decision on housing related policy and regulations on private equity firms buying up single family homes. Really curious. I mean, I might be a Dana Bash stan if she asked that question, but you're right, she'd never ask that question. Anyway, let's get to Kamala Harris and look at the kind of money that's being donated to her campaign and the Democratic Party overall. So the top donor for Kamala Harris and the Democrats is actually Michael Bloomberg. Okay, so Michael Bloomberg has already contributed $41 million, which looks like nothing compared to the $165 million that Timothy Mellon is giving to the Republican parties and Donald Trump. But still, $41 million is no joke. He has given $19 million to the Harris campaign, $10 million to support Democratic House candidates, and $7 million to Everytown Demand a Seat. That's a PAC that he gave $7 million to. Now, other Democratic donors include tech guy Reid Hoffman, who absolutely hates Lena Khan, and his wife Michelle Yee, who spent $31.6 million so far on this election. You also have hedge fund founder James Simon's wife, Marilyn. Now, James Simons has passed away, but his wife has spent $24.4 million on this election cycle. But what's also really interesting, Cenk, is the industries getting involved. Industries. Now, what am I talking about? Well, let's take a look at the next video and you'll get a sense.
Nearly half of all the corporate money flowing into the election this year is coming from the crypto industry, according to a new report from the nonprofit watchdog group Public Citizen. Koch Industries is a distant second place in 2024 as sector heavyweights like Coinbase and Ripple, as well as the VC firm Andreessen Horowitz, which has a sizable portfolio of crypto companies, are giving tens of millions of dollars apiece to try to elect candidates who are friendly to the industry. Now, most of that corporate money being raised is going to the popular and bipartisan pro-crypto super PAC called Fairshake, which is one of the top spending PACs this year. I spoke to their team last night to get the latest numbers on the 4 largest donors to Fairshake and its 2 associated PACs. Coinbase has contributed $49 million. A16Z and Ripple have given $47 million each, and then Jump Crypto put in $15 million. In total, it's raised around $169 million, with more than 90% coming directly from corporations.
That's a lot of money, and obviously they don't want any congressional bill or any regulation to slow their roll. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they're donating as much as they're donating, and they donate to both political parties, to be sure.
Yeah, so the crypto guys are being logical. And by the way, I mean, on a political level, I loathe it in so many ways. Same thing with the AIPAC guys. They mainly target progressives that don't take corporate PAC money because they think, oh, those guys are honest. That's gonna be a giant problem for us. Okay, let's make sure we feed all the corrupt people. And of course, Donald Trump comes to the top of the list of that. So what do they care about? They care about a lot of things. Number one thing they don't want is regulation. Just like the traditional companies like Wall Street, they don't want regulation either. Why? Regulations are, there's another word for them, it's called laws. And if you're a crook, you don't like laws, you don't want any cops that are going to enforce the laws, so you go for deregulation for freedom.
I mean, who doesn't love a nice pump and dump scheme?
Yeah, of course. And so, look, if there's no regulation of crypto, I mean, you get it. It's already running wild and people lose tons of money all the time. Whatever, I'm not getting into a debate on crypto. Bottom line is though, I think their number one ask is, oh, use the Federal Reserve to back up crypto.
Oh my God.
So that way you turn our funny money into real money. And we've got trillions over there. So what difference does it make if we give you 200 million here? Besides which, it's crypto money, whatever the hell.
Happen.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
So they're giant, enormous, well, let's call it operations, if you don't want to call it scam or con or whatever it is, I don't know what it is, are going to get legitimized when the government goes, okay, here, you guys now exist, and whatever that horse crap was is now real. And they're like, but I blame the system, not like, I can't stand what they're doing, but if they didn't do that, they would be irrational. It's so easy to buy the government. It's just the crypto guys found out. They realized it. They're like, oh my God, look, Israel's buying the government. Big Pharma bought the government a long time ago. The banks bought the government. Why shouldn't we buy the government? They're all corrupt. They all take bribes. Let's give them a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of our ill-gotten gains. And maybe some of them weren't ill-gotten. You know, you'd have to get into the details, right? And let's make sure they never regulate us, and so we can do whatever the hell we want. And if somebody loses money in crypto, too bad, we already bribed the Republicans and the Democrats. It's a logical play, and we're all screwed. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.